All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. You know how we do it around here. We take an interesting topic, we go deep, we explore. And today, well, we're diving into the story of Isaac and Rebekah.
Isaac and Rebekah. Okay.
Yeah, and we're looking for some wisdom in their relationship. I mean, everyone wants strong relationships, right? Faith-based connections, things that just work. And we're going to see if their story can give us some clues about how to build that in our own lives.
I like it.
So we're using this sermon called Isaac and Rebekah, Faith, Prayer, and Family. It's really focused on Genesis 24.6267 and 25.1921. I don't know about you, but I'm always kind of looking for that, the secret sauce to a relationship that just
The
thrives.
secret sauce.
Yeah. So let's jump in and see what we can find.
Okay, well, right away, I mean, the story just kind of jumps out at you.
Mm.
It's how Isaac and Rebekah's relationship, like right from the start, it was so connected to faith. You see, when it was time for Isaac to find a wife, his dad, Abraham, he didn't just tell him to, go to the local singles mixer or something.
Right. No swiping on the apps.
Exactly, no swiping. Instead, he sends this trusted servant. The servant's going on a mission, right? Find a wife for Isaac. But, and this is the key, he tells him to look to God for guidance. This is a major life decision.
Wow. That's a level of intentionality we just don't see that much anymore. But, I mean, it wasn't like they were just looking for any woman. It had to be specific, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. This servant, he actually prayed for a very specific sign, like a test, almost. He was looking for a woman who would offer water, not just to him, but to his camels, too. Think about it, a whole bunch of thirsty
That's
camels.
a lot of water. That's a big heart. So that's where Rebecca comes in.
Right, she shows up, offers water to the servant, to the camels, the whole deal, fulfills the sign. But it wasn't just chance, This wasn't just a random act of kindness. The story makes it seem like Rebecca was chosen by God for Isaac.
Hold on. Chosen by God. What about free will? I mean, does that mean we don't get a say in who we end up with?
Okay, so it's not about destiny forcing people together, right? It's
Right.
more about recognizing that God can work through us, through our choices. He uses the things that happen to us to bring about his plan.
I see. So it's not some predestined soulmate. It's more about being open to God's plan, asking for his guidance, seeing where he leads us.
Yeah, precisely. And, this idea of God guiding our relationships, it's not just about finding a husband or a wife. The sermon, it goes on to explain how Isaac and Rebekah's marriage, it was seen as a covenant, not just a contract, a covenant. And that's a really important difference. It gets to the heart of how sacred and deep their union was supposed to be.
Okay, so I think people hear covenant and they think, oh, old-fashioned word for marriage. But back then, covenants were different from contracts, right?
Right, it's not just a word. See, back then, covenants, they were serious business. Much more than legal agreements. They were sacred promises, often with rituals, oaths, the whole nine yards. They held huge religious weight, social implications. It was a big deal.
So in a covenant, you're not just saying, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's more than that, right?
Way more. Think of it like this. In a covenant, both sides, they pledge their loyalty, their commitment. No matter what happens, they promise to stick to the agreement. Good times, bad times, doesn't matter.
Wow, that makes the in sickness and in health part of our vows seem, well, kind of weak.
Right. It's a different level. And this idea of a covenant marriage, it really hits home when you look at what Isaac and Rebekah went through. I mean, Rebekah, she couldn't have children at
Oh,
first.
I bet that was so difficult. Especially back then, having kids was seen as a huge blessing.
Exactly. And you can just imagine the emotional, spiritual struggle. But the story doesn't tell us exactly how Isaac felt about it all. Did he doubt? Did he despair?
It makes you wonder what his prayers were like during that time.
Right. But here's what we do know. Isaac, he turned to prayer. He didn't give up. He prayed for his wife. He asked God to step in. What a powerful example. He supported his wife, not just with words, but by bringing their struggle to God.
And then, well, God answered. Rebecca became pregnant. She had twins, Jacob and Esau. It's like proof that even when things seem impossible, faith and not giving up can lead to amazing things.
It reminds us, too, that God's timing, well, it's not always our timing. Sometimes we have to wait, and that's hard. We face uncertainty. But those times, they can really grow our faith. They can bring us closer to God.
And that's not just for relationships. It's for anything we struggle with, right?
Yeah.
Anytime we need God's help.
Absolutely. This sermon, it tells us to invite God into everything, every part of our lives, just like Isaac did. Ask for his wisdom, not just for the big decisions like who to marry, but for the little stuff, too. The daily arguments, raising kids, all of it.
It's like finding that balance, right? Praying, like everything depends on God, but working like everything depends on us.
That's it. That's the secret sauce right there. We don't have to have it all figured out. Rely on faith, ask for guidance through prayer, and trust that God's timing is perfect. That's what can really change our relationships, change our lives.
This has been honestly, this has been such an inspiring deep dive. I have to check out the full sermon myself.
Mhm.
I think everyone listening should too. There's so much more to unpack. But before we go, you said you had a final thought for us.
Yeah, so we see Isaac asking God for help in choosing a wife, but think about it. What other parts of our relationships could benefit from that level of intention, from that much prayer? Are we bringing that same faith to our friendships, our families, even how we treat our coworkers, our neighbors? Something to think about, right? As you go through your own relationships.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Everyone listening, keep seeking, keep learning, keep diving deep into what matters most. We'll see you next time.